Hey, it's Nikachu Merfolk Master, and we're going to look over all the good and relevant cards that came out from Lorwyn Eclipsed. A bunch of new Merfolk came out, and you know what? Let's review all of them. We're going to start off with Silvergill Mentor. This is a 2-mana 2/1 Merfolk Wizard, and as an additional cost to cast this spell, you have to behold a Merfolk or pay 2. So you basically just show them a Merfolk on the battlefield or reveal a Merfolk card from your hand. Very similar to Silvergill Adept, except if you have no Merfolk in hand, we can at least show them one on the battlefield. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token. And I cannot overstate how much I actually really love to see this card in the Merfolk deck. I have been waiting forever for some sort of cheap, somewhere between 2 to 1 mana creature that can make another token. It would help our deck so much. And you know what? I would have loved to see that 1/1 as a hexproof creature, but I guess this is not Ixalan, so they don't make hexproof creatures. It's going to be a 1/1 blue and white Merfolk token. But it's beautiful. It's fantastic for a lot of reasons. Okay, so no longer my opponent's going to like end of turn kill your creature and then mindlessly attack with like Ragavan or any other random creature. We at least have some body left on the battlefield, and so our opponent's going to have to expel even more resources, more removal, in order to kill them. You know that, okay, you have one Bowmaster, you get to kill only one thing. I get a little something left over in the end. Now let's say they don't even kill anything. This is a huge powerhouse. Now all of a sudden, Lords are actually attacking for a lot of damage. Imagine you go turn 1, some play, turn 2 Silvergill Mentor, get a 1/1 in play, then you play a Lord. After you play the Lord on turn 3, you're attacking for something like at probably 7 damage. And even if you didn't have a turn 1 play, you're attacking for 5, which I think is quite great. And also diversified into several creatures. Not to mention, this card makes Hexcatcher better, because the more random stuff that is still on the battlefield makes Hexcatcher just a much better utility card. You have more things to sacrifice in order to counter spells. So Silvergill Mentor, I think, when I saw this card, I knew this was like my number 1 card I want to play test with, and it is I'd be not surprised if it would also even see some play in Legacy, given you get so many bodies for such a cheap rate. And it is 1 blue, 1 generic, so it's going to be easy to fill in more utility lands like Mutavault without basically bending our mana base over backwards. And it's also a wizard, if that matters, for future wizard synergies. Maybe even the Flame of Anor, the blue-red Flame of Anor deck. Anyone love those blue-red versions? I love it. All right, so Silvergill Mentor, I love this card. Next up, Champions of the Shoal. This is a 4-mana, 4/6 Merfolk Soldier. As an additional cost to cast this spell, behold a Merfolk and exile it. It's a little bit more awkward than our Silvergill Mentor. So we have to behold a Merfolk either in play or in our hand, and exile to get this thing in play. Whenever this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. This card, it's either going to be a bomb, or maybe it's just maybe a smidge too clunky to be relevant. I love everything about this card. It's a 4/6. This would be the largest Merfolk ever in the history of Merfolk that we could make playable. There's nothing but you put a Lord in play, it's a 5. It would be a 5/7. We could reasonably take a shot from Flage's attack trigger and then gang block it if we really needed to. We could attack freely into a lot of creatures with just this thing. And not to mention, when we attack, we're stunning creatures. You know, you can't just rely on one blocker, because we're going to tap it down with a stun counter. And if you don't deal with the Champions of the Shoal, the one thing that we stun will be perpetually stunned, because enters the battlefield, stun your creature. Okay, you remove the stun counter, but then on my turn I get to attack and keep restunning that stun creature. So then that is, again, another answer to a lot of problematic creatures, whether it be Flage, maybe it is a creature that has been given flying by the Guide of Souls, or just even a giant Guide of Souls in general. Other evasive creatures, Murktide Regent. I wouldn't say Oculus is the best thing to tap down because Oculus gets a lot of value no matter what. But still, a very, very strong and interactive card. Like one thing that I'm really liking between Silvergill Mentor and Champions of the Shoal is that it is an ETB. Okay, we're going to get some value out of this no matter what. Because one of our biggest problems outside of the speed of the format in Modern, one of our biggest problems is that we don't get any value out of our cards when they enter the battlefield. Okay, we play Lord of Atlantis. It dies. Okay, what happened? Nothing. The board state hasn't changed. At least with Champions of the Shoal, this card is going to be incredibly strong. Like we at least leave a lasting impact on the board by stunning a creature, hopefully slowing our opponents down. But the downside is it's 4 mana. Now that's the choke point. Now, is 4 mana unplayable in Modern? I would say no. But against some of the matchups that we're like, we need some help versus, whether it be Boros Energy or Affinity or Prowess, we could be dead. We literally could be dead by the time we get this in play. We're not going to reliably get to our 4th land drop on time. And then even with an Ether Vial, we'll get this in play at earliest by turn 5. So the casting cost is going to be a bit of a bummer. But mind you, actually, one thing about Vial is that if you Vial this in play, you don't have to exile a card from your hand. You also don't have to exile a card in play. It's just as an additional cost to cast the spell, you behold a Merfolk and exile it. Although even if you exile a card from your hand or on the battlefield, specifically on the battlefield, it's not necessarily a bad thing because we have a lot of ETB cards. We could exile a Silvergill Adept. We could exile our Silvergill Mentor. And then if Champions of the Shoal dies, we'll get that card back into our hand, replay it, and get more value. So this is a card I definitely want to play test. I am hoping good things from this card, but definitely cannot guarantee it because of the chunky mana cost in Modern. Looking at all these cards, I'm very interested to see how they're going to interact in Standard. Standard might be just too fast, too powerful, but there's a lot of really good stuff coming out. I'm like, maybe this stuff could even be Pioneer playable. Anyway, okay, Champions of the Shoal. I give it my thumbs up, hopefully, but only play testing is going to find out if it is fast enough for the format. I would not imagine I'd be playing with 4 of these in the deck, probably somewhere around 2. And then if somehow it's a bomb, maybe 3, but probably is going to be around 2. Just a reminder, if you're looking to get any of these Merfolk cards, you might want to pre-order them at FusionGamingOnline.com, my sponsor. And don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu at checkout to get 5% off all your purchases. Next, let's look at the Disruptor of Currents. This is a 5 mana 3/3 Merfolk wizard with Flash, Convoke, and also when this creature enters, return up to one other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So the first thing that I think about when I see the Disruptor of Currents is that it's not too hard to cast. It's not going to be impossible. Even if our opponents are pretty removal heavy, it basically asks you to have, 2 creatures out in 3 mana or 1 creature out in 4 mana. I don't think it's too hard, and especially since we're going to have access to Silvergill Mentor, it's actually going to be even easier to pull off our Disruptor of Currents. I would say this card is good. I would have loved, a long time ago, I would have loved to have Harbinger of the Tides. It just enters the battlefield and bounces something. No, that's for 2 mana. This one's going to be a little harder. Also going to have anti-synergy with Ether Vial. I'm not going to say it's going to be a bad idea to take the Vial up to 5, but obviously because it's 5 mana, it's going to be a little bit more clunky in that range. But it's still a Flash Convoke creature that enters the battlefield, and you can bounce your opponent's permanents. Remember, it's non-land permanent, so you can bounce artifacts, you can bounce enchantments, you can bounce planeswalkers. Of course, by default, we're going to mostly be bouncing creatures, and but you can bounce your own stuff. So in response to your opponent's removal, you could maybe tap some creatures, play Disruptor of Currents, bounce the Lord that was giving your stuff Island Walk, re-Vial it back onto the battlefield, and continue your attack for victory. So this card is another one that, it looks really good, and hopefully the mana cost isn't going to hold it down, because I like the looks of this thing, and I like the utility of it. And again, more Flash creatures the better, because when we pass the turn, even with some creatures up, we don't always attack. Sometimes we're afraid of a blowout on our Lord of Atlantis. We're like, okay, we're not going to attack yet. We're going to wait for a right moment, a better spot. And so we could have like 3 to 4 lands up and a bunch of creatures up. And now we could have Hexcatcher. We can have Flood Pit's Drowner. And now we could also have Disruptor of Currents. Could also have Subtlety randomly. Okay, so I really like the look of Disruptor of Currents. Next up. The Wanderbrine Trapper. This is a white 2/1 Merfolk Scout and has the activated ability of pay a generic, tap another untapped creature you control to tap target creature an opponent controls. If they gave me this card 10 years ago, I would have been just fist pumping this thing. It was debated 10 years ago. Just a random blue 2/1 vanilla creature probably was just what Merfolk needed to like go over the top a long time ago. That would definitely is not the case today because there is just so much heat versus 1 toughness creatures, whether it be for whether our opponent's playing Bowmasters, Lava Dart. And one of the most backbreaking cards right now, Goblin Bombardment. So those cards are in play. So Wanderbrine Trapper, not going to be strictly better. Or sorry, strictly amazing. But maybe this is still like the best 1-drop. I'm sorry, I shouldn't show too much disrespect to the Mindspring Merfolk, which honestly maybe is our best 1-drop overall because it can draw so many cards. However, is not nearly as big of a beat stick on its own early on in the game, whereas this Wanderbrine Trapper can be, but also can be very interactive somewhere in the mid game. But do you know what? Maybe Mindspring plus Wanderbrine Trapper is exactly the 1-drop suite we need to take over the meta game. Okay, so I do like this card, and I think it's very much worth splashing white for to test it out. Next up, we got Adept Watershaper. This is a 3-mana 3/4 Merfolk Cleric. Other tapped creatures you control have indestructible. I'm just guessing that this card is going to be bad. It's going to be super hard to make work. This card can't defend itself because it says other tapped creatures you control have indestructible. It should just be. And oh, by the way, why does it have to be so situational like that? Couldn't it have just been other creatures you control have indestructible, or even other Merfolk creatures you control have indestructible? So this card is like more of a, they built it for like a more generic open like an environment. Basically, like, okay, you can just throw this into any deck. Do you play white? Do you want to make your creatures indestructible? Well, play the Adept Watershaper. There you go. So it's a little too situational. Like, if I declare my attacks, they'll just kill the Adept Watershaper. Oh, sorry, they'll let me attack, then they kill Adept Watershaper, and then that's it. Then they can block all my stuff. And it doesn't have, unlike Svelune, which could be indestructible if I have enough creatures in play, this doesn't have anything. Now, I do like that it's like a 3/4 for 3 mana. That's great. The only gimmicky thing that you could do with it, though, is that your opponents let you attack, and you have a Vial on 3, which should be big alarm bells if you're playing white. And you've got 3, your Vial's on 3. You should, in response to me declaring my attack, probably kill my creatures. Yeah, like in any case, if they let me attack, the best thing I can do is blow them out by vialing in an Adept Watershaper as I attack, which isn't even going to work most of the time because I'll probably leave a Lord back behind and let my other creatures attack. So like the one creature that needs protection can't even get protection because I would have to like basically go on a kamikaze mission with this Lord of Atlantis. So I really don't like even just the ideas of the lines with this card, and I just assume that it's just not going to work. Playtesting might prove otherwise, but I would just play Svelune instead. Svelune is better value, protects herself, and marginally, I mean, she doesn't protect the other creatures nearly as well as Adept Watershaper would, but I think overall her value is just better. Also, quick reminder, if you're going to play these cards on Magic Online, maybe you want to rent them with Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. It's the ability to play any deck, any format, especially when the new cards come out. Don't commit yourself to Azorius Merfolk. Maybe it sucks. Rent the cards first with Mana Traders. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders coupon code Nikachu_G4U for 40% cash back on your third month subscription. Next up, we have the Deep Channel Duelist. So 2-mana 2/2 Merfolk Soldier. At the beginning of your end step, untap target Merfolk you control. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+1. This is probably just a card for standard, just to give yourself a lord. Give yourself a lord. We have this is not the only lord in standard, but like it gives the deck enough lords that you have like some beef and push to it. But I do not expect that this card will have any influence on Modern. It won't have any influence on even Pioneer. But maybe it will make for a fun Arena Merfolk deck. So untapping like one creature is not a big deal. I just mostly look at this as like a Merfolk Mistbinder. It's mostly just a vanilla lord in the grand scheme of things. But then we got Deepway Navigator, a 2-mana 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. Now this one has Flash. When this creature enters, untap each other Merfolk you control. As long as you attacked with 3 or more Merfolk this turn, Merfolk you control get +1/+0. I find like both these abilities are just awkward, because if I want to attack, if I want this bottom trigger, as long as you attacked with 3 or more Merfolk, then I need this thing in play before I attack. But if I play it before I attack, then my creatures, I won't get the untap effect of this thing. So it's like, it's a bit of a non-bow in its own design. But I like that it's like, and like it's a Flash Lord, but like it's useless if I want the buff. It's only useful if I want to surprise my opponent and untap each other Merfolk I control for like, I don't know, a big gang block. It would probably have to be a card that you have to play test a little bit. I mean, I don't really expect anything in I don't really expect this card to be playable in Modern, but it does have Flash. It's got that going for it. But it is convenient that between this, I mean, it's effectively a Lord because it can buff up all your other creatures, especially those tokens. You just go send them to their death. Something's going to get through, you know what I mean? So between Deep Channel Duelist and Deepway Navigator, you actually are looking at probably enough lords in standard to make like a pretty decent Merfolk deck. Next up, we have Sygg Wanderwine Wisdom. This is a 2-mana 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. Sygg can't be blocked. Whenever this creature enters or transforms into Sygg Wanderwine Wisdom, target creature gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card until end of turn. Now, at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay a white. If you can transform Sygg into a Sygg Wanderbrine Shield, a 2/2 Merfolk Rogue, also can't be blocked. Whenever this creature transforms into Sygg Wanderbrine Shield, target creature you control gains protection from each color until your next turn. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay a blue, and if you do, transform Sygg. So first things first, no ETB makes this card quite terrible in the grand scheme of things. Now, that being said, it could see some play in some formats. For example, there are no Lords or Island Walk Lords or Island Walk anything in Pioneer. So this card might be just playable. Even though it doesn't have an ETB, it's like a free thing that it's like you can freely attack with this card and trigger things like Deeproot Pilgrimage without the worry of anyone like anything blocking you. And this paired with the Lord is like a pretty decent clock. Whereas I hate the 1-mana 1/1 unblockable creatures. They're just not big enough to deal damage, and they're not worth having in your deck. So this thing might be playable there. I don't really love the ability. So when it enters or transforms, target creature gains. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card until end of turn. Like, that's a lot of work to get that card. You know what I mean? We draw a card. That's great. So when it transforms, if that creature isn't blocked or isn't killed, we're going to get to draw a card. So it's like very, very dubious value. Same thing on this side. Whenever this creature transforms into Sygg Wanderbrine Shield, target creature you control gains protection from each color until your next turn. Basically turning it into like a bit of a mini Progenitus. So you get a small Progenitus every second turn. See, it's just very, very clunky. Definitely way too clunky for Modern. I wouldn't even bother trying. I don't think I would bother trying to playtest this card, but probably is far more valuable in Standard and might even be worth playtesting in Pioneer. Next up, we've got the Meanders Guide. So 3 mana, 3/2 Merfolk Scout. Now, when this creature attacks, you may tap another untapped Merfolk you control. When you do, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I have no idea how to evaluate this. I want to assume by default this card is not good. It's 3 mana. It's very clunky. The 3/2 body is not that impressive. Look, they did power creep the power and toughness on our creatures, people. They did power. Look, these creatures are big. We got a 4/6. We got a 3/3. 2/1 for 1 mana. A 3/4. So I really can't complain where they're moving the direction of the power and toughness. At least with the power creep of Magic the Gathering moving up, they're at least power creeping the Merfolk up. Because in the past, they were like 3 mana 2/2s, 3 mana 1/2s. It was awful. There's a world where maybe we want to bring our creatures back from the graveyard against maybe some deck. Like maybe it could be a sideboard card or something. But I'm not entirely sure. Like if you're up against a deck with a lot of removal, well, this thing can still die. Yeah, before you get to attack. So I put this in play. Okay, it's dead too. Well, I guess I'm in trouble. But if it doesn't die, then this thing can hopefully cascade and bring like a bunch of stuff back. I assume it's junk. But it has like sort of a unique effect for Merfolk that we have never seen before. Not to mention like everything mana value 3 or less from our deck is going to come with some sort of ETB and value, which is valuable to us. It is. So any Meanders Guide. This is probably 2 thumbs down. Who knows? Maybe someone will make something of it. And then lastly, we have Sygg's Command. That's great. Every command I think in the game is instant speed. Ours is sorcery speed. Do they really have to do that? Like, are these abilities all that broken? They're not. They're not broken at all. I feel incredibly insulted that they made a sorcery speed command. We waited so long for some sort of command card. Here it is. Sorcery speed. Enjoy, Merfolk players. Anyway, okay. 3 mana. And it's also in white. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of target Merfolk you control. See, if that was instant speed, that would actually be useful. I could copy the creature that my opponent just tried to kill. Creatures target player controls gain lifelink until end of turn. Now this probably is like sort of useful, especially since in Merfolk we never have any advantage. We never have access to life gain, period. And it can like definitely swing so many matchups. There's a lot of games where if I can just gain a little bit of life, I will definitely race my opponent. But especially in mono blue, our life total only goes down. It doesn't go back up. So we always have to be very careful about how much we attack with, what do we attack with, what do we have to leave on defense, because we can lose the race very, very easily. So I think that the ability, it's not to be completely ignored. I wouldn't say it is the default thing that I want to use, but it's definitely going to come in handy. Target player draws a card. That's just good value. And then tap target creature, put a stun counter on it. For the most part, I like all these abilities. So creating a token of a creature I control would be good. But the problem is it's at sorcery speed. So our opponent needs to be tapped out for us to make any like really good get any really good value out of that, because otherwise they'll just kill it in response and it's completely useless. Tapping a creature and putting a stun counter is so awesome. Like by default, I would love to end of turn, draw a card and tap our opponent's creature and put a stun counter on it. That would be great. That would be beautiful. Maybe in some weird world this is still going to be playable. It's probably worth trying to playtest, but like I have a feeling the sorcery, the fact that its sorcery speed is not it's just too much. It's just not going to make it playable. Now, is there value in these cards that I've missed? Let me know in the comments section below. And oh boy, do we have a lot of playtesting to do with these Lorwyn Eclipsed Merfolk cards. See you guys next time, Fish Fam.